The sharp echo of heels clicking against the polished office floor was the only sound in the otherwise silent hallway. Clara Marshall stood tall, her bright pink dress a stark contrast to the beige and gray tones that dominated the building. The dress was her signature color, bold, unapologetic, and always turning heads. Today, however, it seemed to have drawn the wrong kind of attention. Clara clutched a stack of documents and folders tightly to her chest, her nails painted a matching shade of pink. She had just returned from a successful client meeting, her mind already racing through the next steps of the project. But as she approached her office, she noticed the door was slightly ajar. That was odd. She always closed it. Before she could push the door open fully, a booming voice stopped her in her tracks. "Clara, my office, now." She turned to see her boss, Greg Thompson, standing at the end of the hallway. His face was red, his jaw clenched, and his arms crossed over his chest. Clara raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. She followed him into his office, her heels clicking confidently with every step. The moment she stepped inside, Greg slammed the door shut. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" he barked, pacing behind his desk. "Excuse me?" she said, setting her stack of documents down on a nearby chair. "That," he said, pointing furiously at her dress, "that Barbie outfit you're wearing. Do you think this is some kind of joke? This is a professional environment, Clara, not some damn fashion show." Clara's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice calm. "Greg, I don't see how my attire—" "You don't see?" he interrupted, his voice rising. "You're representing this company, Clara, and walking around in that? It's unacceptable. It's distracting. It's embarrassing." She took a deep breath, her nails digging into her palms. "With all due respect, Greg, my work speaks for itself. The client I just met with—" "I don't care about the client," he shouted. "I care about the image of this company. And frankly, Clara, you're not fitting it. Effective immediately, you're fired." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Clara's eyes widened, but she didn't flinch. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, a faint smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "Fired?" she repeated softly. "Yes, fired," Greg snapped, pointing at the door. "Pack your things and get out, and leave the key on your desk." Clara didn't move. She stood there, her pink dress radiating defiance, her gaze steady. "Greg," she began, her voice as smooth as silk, "do you even know who owns this building?" Greg froze mid-rant, his brow furrowing. "What are you talking about?" Clara reached into the pocket of her dress and pulled out a small, elegant keychain. Dangling from it was a single key, larger than the others, engraved with the company logo. She dangled it in front of him, her smile widening. "Let me refresh your memory. 5 years ago, my late father built this building, and when he passed away last year, he left it to me. I own it, every single brick, every pane of glass, every desk in this office, including yours." Greg's face turned pale. He staggered back, collapsing into his chair as if the weight of her words had physically knocked him over. You own the building?" he stammered, his voice barely a whisper. "That's right, Greg, and since you're so concerned about the company's image, let's talk about yours, because as of this moment, you're fired." Greg's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, but no words came out. Clara turned on her heel, her pink dress swishing dramatically as she walked out of the office, leaving him in stunned silence. The vendetta had just begun. Clara strode down the hallway, her pink dress a beacon of defiance. The stack of documents she carried felt lighter now, as though the weight of Greg's arrogance had evaporated with her words. She could hear the faint murmur of whispers from the cubicles she passed, but she didn't falter. Her mind was already racing ahead, plotting her next move. She stopped at her office door, pushing it open with a controlled force. Inside, everything was exactly as she had left it, her desk neat and organized, her diplomas and awards proudly displayed on the wall. Her gaze lingered on a framed photo of her father, his warm smile forever frozen in time. "I hope you're proud, Dad," she murmured, her voice steady. Clara pulled out her phone and dialed a number she had memorized years ago. "Clara!" a cheerful voice answered on the second ring. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" "Jordan," she said, her tone firm but calm, "I need you to draft a termination notice for Greg Thompson, effective immediately." There was a pause on the other end. Wait, Greg Thompson? The CEO of Thompson Consulting? Former CEO, Clara corrected, her lips curling into a smirk, as of 5 minutes ago. Whistle low. What did he do? "Let's just say he underestimated the woman in the pink dress," she replied cryptically. "Send the notice to HR and CC me. And Jordan, make sure it's clear that he's not to step foot in this building again." "Consider it done," Jordan said, his tone now serious. "Anything else?" "Yes," Clara said, glancing at the photo of her father again. "Schedule a company-wide meeting for this afternoon. I have an announcement to make." She hung up and leaned back in her chair, her mind spinning with possibilities. This wasn't just about Greg anymore. It was about reclaiming her father's legacy and ensuring the company was run the way he had always envisioned, with integrity, respect, and a touch of flair. The office buzzed with anticipation as employees gathered in the conference room later that afternoon. Clara entered confidently, her pink dress commanding attention, as always. She stepped up to the podium, her gaze sweeping across the room. "Good afternoon," she began, her voice calm but authoritative. The room fell silent. "First, I want to thank each and every one of you for your hard work and dedication. This company wouldn't be where it is today without your efforts." She paused, letting her words sink in. "However, I also believe it's important to address the recent changes in leadership. Effective immediately, Greg Thompson is no longer affiliated with this company." A collective gasp rippled through the room, followed by hushed whispers. Clara held up a hand, silencing them. "Let me be clear. This decision was not made lightly. But as the owner of this building and the majority shareholder of Thompson Consulting, I believe it's in the company's best interest to move in a new direction, one that values creativity, inclusivity, and respect." The whispers grew louder, but Clara's steady presence kept the room in check. "In the coming weeks, you'll see changes, not just in leadership, but in how we operate as a team. I'm committed to fostering an environment where everyone feels empowered to be their authentic selves." Her gaze landed on a young intern in the back corner, nervously twirling the hem of her bright yellow blouse. Clara smiled warmly. "And that includes wearing whatever color makes you feel confident." The room erupted in applause, some employees visibly relieved, while others exchanged excited glances. Clara stepped down from the podium, her heart light, but her resolve stronger than ever. As she exited the conference room, she noticed Greg standing near the elevators, his face pale and his jaw clenched. He held a box of his belongings awkwardly in his arms. "Well, Greg," Clara said, her tone icy, "leaving so soon?" He glared at her, his voice trembling with rage. "You think you can just waltz in here and take over this company?" "My company," Clara interrupted, her smile razor sharp. "Thank you for your service, Greg, but the Barbie era starts now." She turned on her heel, her pink dress swishing as she walked away. The elevator doors slid shut behind Greg, sealing his fate. Clara didn't look back. She had a company to run. The news of Greg's termination spread through the office like wildfire. By the end of the day, every employee knew Clara Marshall wasn't just a woman in a pink dress. She was the owner, the boss, and she had just dismantled the old regime with a single devastating blow. Clara sat in what had once been Greg's office, now hers, her fingers steepled as she reviewed the company's financials. The door creaked open, and her assistant, Maya, peeked in nervously. "Clara, Ms. Marshall?" "Just Clara is fine," she said, not looking up. Maya swallowed hard. "There's a problem. Greg is refusing to leave the premises. He's in the lobby shouting at security. He says he's calling the board." Clara's pen stilled. A slow, dangerous smile curved her lips. "Is he now?" She stood, smoothing her pink dress with a deliberate calm. "Let's go have a chat." The elevator ride down was silent. The moment the doors slid open, Clara heard Greg's enraged voice echoing through the marble lobby. "You can't do this. I built this company. Actually," Clara interrupted, stepping forward, "my father built it. You just sat in his chair." Greg whirled around, his face flushed with fury. A few employees lingered nearby, pretending not to eavesdrop. "You think you've won?" Greg spat. "The board will never let a little girl in a pink dress run this company into the ground." Clara tilted her head. "Oh, Greg, still so sure of yourself." She reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone, scrolling to a document before turning the screen toward him. "Recognize these signatures?" Greg's eyes flickered over the screen, then widened in disbelief. It was a unanimous vote of confidence from the board, signed just hours ago. "Impossible," he hissed. "Not impossible," Clara corrected, "just well prepared." She took a step closer, her voice dropping to a lethal whisper. "You really thought I wouldn't have the board on my side before I made my move? You've been bleeding this company dry with your incompetence for years. They were relieved to see you go." Greg's hands clenched into fists. "You'll regret this." Clara laughed, a bright, sharp sound. "No, Greg, the only one leaving here with regrets is you." She nodded to security. "Escort him out. And if he resists, call the police." Greg's face twisted in rage, but before he could lunge forward, 2 security guards stepped between them, gripping his arms. "You'll pay for this," he snarled as they dragged him toward the doors. Clara watched, unblinking, until the glass doors swung shut behind him. The lobby was silent. Then, from somewhere in the crowd, a single pair of hands began to clap. Soon, the entire room erupted into applause. Clara turned, surveying her employees, her team, with quiet satisfaction. "Back to work, everyone," she said, her voice warm but firm. "We've got a company to save." As she walked back to the elevator, Maya fell into step beside her, eyes shining. "That was incredible." Clara smirked. That was just the beginning. The elevator doors closed, sealing her ascent. The Barbie era had officially begun.